The story begins with a nightmare of a woman named Beth. In the dream, she was wandering through a forest. Her condition was terrible. She was scared, and even her hair had fallen out. Suddenly, Beth woke up. It was morning. Beth and her husband, Jay, had gone camping in the forests of North America. They had planned to spend a few days exploring the wilderness. Beth had cancer. After undergoing treatment, she recovered, but her hair had started falling out. When she went into the forest, she envisioned herself in the same condition as in her dream. Perhaps it was a lingering fear from her past, but now she was determined to embrace life. She wanted to live fully, which is why she had joined Jay on this trip. In a way, they were celebrating her victory over cancer. The journey symbolized a fresh start for them. As the morning came and they prepared for the day ahead, Jay mentioned two paths on the map. One was easy, while the other was more challenging. Beth, however, didn't like the idea of being perceived as weak, so she chose the difficult path, even though her body was still fragile. They continued their journey, marveling at the beauty of nature around them. At one point, they encountered some rocks. While crossing them, Beth slipped. Although Jay reached out to help her, Beth, feeling a bit stubborn, refused his hand. As a result, she slightly injured one of her legs. They decided to rest for a while. Nearby, there was a river, so Beth went alone to wash her wound. While she was washing her leg, she noticed blood in the river, which frightened her. Looking more closely, she realized it was coming from a dead bear. The bear's body had been skinned, killed in a brutal manner. She called out to Jay, and both of them were shocked by what they saw. Jay speculated that it must have been the work of a hunter, lamenting that anyone could come into these woods and do such things. He remarked that the rangers needed to pay more attention to such incidents. They decided to move on. Before nightfall, Jay set up their camp and decorated the area a bit to lift Beth's spirits. Later that night, as they sat by the fire, they heard a gunshot in the distance. Jay, concerned, considered calling the rangers, though doing so would mean cutting their trip short. Beth refused, wanting to continue their journey. To help Beth move on from the past, Jay brought out her hospital wristband. He suggested that she burn it as a symbolic gesture of leaving her struggles behind. Although the wristband reminded Beth of difficult times, she listened to Jay and threw it into the fire. Then they both go to sleep, but Beth has another bad dream. In it, she is lying on a hospital bed, and a strange creature is licking her wounds. Out of fear, Beth wakes up suddenly and feels as though the creature is nearby. She steps outside and notices a strange liquid on the ground along with paw marks. Suddenly, Jay emerges from the bushes. Beth is startled to see Jay outside, but he explains that he had been out for some time and came out while Beth was asleep. Hearing this, Beth rushes back to the camp, and both of them see that the campsite has been completely destroyed. This frightens them deeply. Their devices begin malfunctioning, and they decide to leave immediately. As they set out, before morning arrives, they encounter something strange. It appears as a mass of black smoke. Both of them start running in fear. Jay reassures Beth, encouraging her that they will find a way out. However, as they continue, Beth spots something near the trees. This entity somehow takes control of her briefly, but she regains her senses when Jay calls out to her. As they press on, Jay's foot gets caught in a bear trap. He is severely injured and cries out in pain. Beth quickly opens the trap, but Jay is now struggling to walk. Beth, terrified of the monster, decides to leave Jay behind temporarily to find help. As she runs, Beth becomes aware that the evil force is nearby. She eventually stumbles upon some ruins and discovers a strange well filled with a black, floating substance. Looking around, she slips and realizes that human bodies are hanging in the ruins. The horrifying scene prompts her to flee to save her life. In her escape, she hides in a secluded spot. A man, concealed in the darkness, suddenly places his hand over her mouth to keep her quiet. The demonic force is still lurking, but thanks to this wild man, Beth is saved. The man later helps her by carrying her on his shoulder and bringing her to his hideout, which turns out to be a bunker. This mysterious man had been living in the forest for a long time. He is a man of few words, which initially makes Jay and Beth wary of him. However, they soon realize that he is not a threat. Instead, he is also fighting against the malevolent entity. His name is Quinn. Jay's leg is badly injured, and Beth attempts to set the bone but is unsuccessful. Quinn initially appears indifferent, but the noise from Jay's pain eventually prompts him to fix Jay's leg himself. Beth then carefully bandages Jay's wound. The two ask Quinn what the creature is, and he tells them it's a Wendigo, a mythical being. He explains that the Wendigo is a creature that can peer into a human soul and show them strange, disturbing visions. It is known to peel off a person's skin and take control of those who get lost in the woods. Thousands of people have disappeared in the forests of America, and to this day, no trace of them has ever been found. Although Beth and Jay initially didn't believe in such stories, they had seen the creature with their own eyes, making it hard to dismiss. According to Quinn, venturing out at night is extremely dangerous, so they decide to wait until morning. Before going to sleep, Beth notices a locket around Quinn's neck. It contains a picture of a girl. The next morning, Quinn wakes Beth but insists on taking only her outside. Jay has to stay behind in the bunker. Beth follows Quinn outside, where he stops near a concealed spot, planning to ambush the creature. Quinn seems intent on hunting the entity with his gun, though it's unclear how he expects to harm it, especially since it can take the form of smoke. Perhaps Quinn knows a specific weakness of the Wendigo, but he doesn't share this with Beth. While waiting, Beth notices Quinn looking at his locket. He reveals that the girl in the picture is his daughter, Addison. He had brought her to the forest to teach her how to hunt, but the demon took her away. This is why Quinn is so determined to get revenge on the Wendigo. Hearing this, Beth feels sympathy for him. After waiting for a long time without any sign of the creature, the two decide to move to another location. Suddenly, Beth hears a noise. When she looks back, Quinn is gone, and the black smoke approaches her. Strangely, it merely brushes past her and disappears, leaving Beth unharmed. This encounter makes it clear that the entity is not trying to kill Beth. Beth realizes that Quinn used her as bait. Angry and confused, she returns to the bunker. When she confronts Quinn, he begins questioning her, asking if she is still sick. He explains that the Wendigo is drawn to certain types of people, those with despair in their hearts. The entity feeds on souls that have lost hope, and this often includes the sick and dying. Quinn also points out that Beth's recurring nightmares since arriving in the forest are likely caused by the creature's influence. Reluctantly, Beth admits that she once had cancer, and although she was initially cured, the cancer has returned. She hasn't told her husband, Jay, because she wanted to create happy memories with him during this trip. That night, while Quinn is asleep, Beth seizes the opportunity to investigate the bunker floor, driven by suspicion and a need to uncover the truth. There, she discovered an underground tunnel. She entered it secretly. After walking some distance, she heard a very strange sound. What she saw next was horrifying: mutilated bodies of many people. Terrified, she immediately ran back out. By then, Quinn had woken up. He was furious with Beth. Beth accused him, saying, "You're a killer. You used the people trapped here as bait to hunt that creature." She realized Quinn had been sacrificing people just like he intended to do with them. Now, he wanted to take Jay, arguing that Jay was going to die anyway. Beth begged him not to take Jay. Instead, she offered herself, saying, "Take me. The entity seems to want something from me, so this will give you a chance to kill it." After much pleading, Quinn reluctantly agreed. He brought Beth outside. As she said a final goodbye to Jay, she secretly hid a nail she believed belonged to the demon. Walking through the woods, Beth asked Quinn, "What should I do? I've never been used as bait before. Do I need to scream or hang myself somewheres?" Quinn remained silent. Suddenly, a terrifying sound echoed through the forest. The entity attacked them. It first hypnotized Quinn, showing him visions of his daughter. As he dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by the images, the entity injured him and threw him aside. Beth rushed to Quinn and pleaded, "Enough is enough. Let's get out of here." But even in his injured state, Quinn's resolve didn't change. He forcibly dragged Beth to a place where a gallows stood. Beth fought back fiercely, but Quinn showed no mercy. The entity didn't want to kill everyone. Instead, it seemed intent on trapping people like Beth in an endless loop. Quinn threatened to kill her if the entity didn't show itself. Beth was forced to put the noose around her neck, but the entity didn't appear. Quinn taunted it, shouting, "Come forward or I'll kill her." Beth suddenly realized she had seen all of this in a dream. It was a vision of the future given by the entity. Seizing her moment, she drove the nail into Quinn's throat. The same nail had killed her husband back at the campsite, a realization that chilled her. Quinn didn't die immediately. Instead, he staggered, severely injured, and began hearing his daughter's voice, which was a trick of the entity. Beth, however, wasn't safe either. The wooden log she was standing on slipped, and she fell, leaving her hanging from the rope. At first, Beth thought she was dead, but after the rope broke, she regained consciousness. It was nearing evening, and she started running. By mistake, she ended up at the same old ruins where she had found Quinn earlier. She noticed skin remnants, which meant the entity had killed Quinn. Suddenly, something strange began happening to Beth. The entity had now taken possession of her. When she came to, she found herself in a strange place, lying on a stone. Around her were symbols that suggested people in ancient times had sacrificed themselves there. It seemed that those who willingly offered themselves to the entity were granted some form of power. Beth, however, wasn't ready to give in. She tried repeatedly to escape, but the entity kept bringing her back to the same spot. It felt as though she was trapped in a never-ending loop. Exhausted, she began to lose hope. But then, she remembered something. Before Quinn's death, she had taken out her knife. This time, when the entity appeared, she noticed a specific spot that emitted light. She recalled Quinn saying that this was the entity's physical form, which meant it could be killed. Summoning her courage, Beth attacked the light. As soon as she struck, the entity's body shattered into many pieces. A strange worm-like creature emerged from the remains and began moving toward Beth. Without hesitation, she stomped on it, killing it. While exploring the area, Beth found a medical kit. By morning, she managed to escape the ruins and return to the bunker. There, she found her husband, Jay, and gave him medicine from the kit. His condition began to improve. The next day, both of them prepared to leave the forest. And with that, friends, this film comes to an end.